avoid volume or damage by volume. So it's all big and heavy stuff. And they need to move, we need to move into something very different, modern, and build it. And the idea is to do it not alone, but together with the community, because we can't do it alone. We know that it's impossible. It requires different skill sets, different ideas. It's people who have been working there are as old as the plant itself. They're 65, 70 years old. They only know about oil and gas. So we really need to reinvent the whole story. It's a different game. So when we started, and this was at the beginning of this year, we are really starting this journey. We said this is another world. It's not the same world that we used to. It's really different. Everything is different. Different feedstocks, different products, different skills that we need from our people. And it's also a world in oil and gas. It's really hard not to make money. You need to be really, quite stupid, blunt, wasteful, and you still make money. Now, in the renewable business, that's not the case. We have to. So another thing we need to learn is make money and be smart. There's no think about margins anymore. It's really it's like real life now. So that's actually, I think that's good. It also means we have a lot of competitors, because in oil and gas you have a license to operate, and if you get that license to operate, you get a free ticket to wealth, because you get the oil and you just pump it up and you sell it and bingo. It's the easiest business in the world. That's not entirely true, because it requires some technology and some skill and all that, but not so much. But now we have competitors, because everybody can build a windmill. Every neighborhood can have their own windmill or solar field, or you can have your own hydrogen plant in your cellar, if you like. So there's a lot of competition now, so we have to be competitive. It's entirely new. We had 6 competitors worldwide, and maybe new world. You get the picture. It's all new. And then the last one, we need to be fast, because if we 2030, the goal is to reduce our emissions with 45–50% before 2030. And that's because we want to be net zero by 2050. That's quite a challenge, because this is net zero. That means not only our own emissions, but also the emissions of our suppliers and the emissions of our customers, which is the steel factories, the cement factories, the heating system. So for an energy company, that's a challenge. So the goal is to go to -50 compared to 2016 in 8 years. So that's fast. Because you're just beginning that. So what we use in some parts of Shell is this ocean value model together with the Kata approach, where we say, okay, what's the vision? The big vision is quite clear. We want to reduce these emissions. And then in Rheinland we said, well, if you do that, we need to build 2 new plants per year. That's our ocean. Now, we have not built a new plant in 5 years. So this is a challenge. So it's like, okay, we need to do things differently. And what we said is, the way to do that is by going agile, because we can't stay how we are doing, continue doing what we used to do. So let's use as a target condition, let's see if we can do it in an agile way. Because we believe that would help us. And then we said, okay, there was a sprint length, sort of felt good to do 2-week sprints. I've been insisting on 1-week sprints. But that's too, we're not there yet. I like faster feedback loops better than slower feedback loops because you learn faster, you go twice as fast. But anyway, we have 2-week sprints, and then we said to all the teams, we said, okay, make steps every sprint and implement those steps every sprint. And the idea of those steps is, let's get closer to delivering 2 projects, 2 plants per year in the Rheinland environment. Yeah, and then of course there's the values. Are you familiar with this model? This is the way we like to do continuous improvement. It's just having small steps, and actually I think it's an agile way of doing continuous improvement, or a lean way of doing continuous improvement. You just chop it up in small pieces and make sure that you do your plan, do, check, act cycle every 2 weeks, and make sure that an experiment has really rooted and has been tested and works, and then you replicate it or not. There's something about Shell, and that's that everybody in Shell thinks that we have the best project management system in the world, which is a waterfall system, and it is pretty good. It has, for a waterfall system, it's really maybe one of the best. But we have that, so we have that's a given. So we need to operate in that because people have been trained for decades to work this way. You don't throw that away just like that. And by the way, that wouldn't be a very lean thing to do, because probably that's our best practice, and probably that's the best way we do things right now. So this is our starting point. Let's not throw that away. In fact, I think it is very close to standardized work. So we did a check on the lean principles, and we said, okay, what do we have? We have standardization. Our standard work is actually pretty good. We don't use it all the time, but people who follow have methods, and sometimes they use it. So that's interesting. They have visual management boards. They look at data. They have very engineers. It's all engineers that love quality. They love it when something works and when it's done well. So rushing through work never appeals to anyone. They want to make, so, and this is German engineers. So, I mean, if they go for a task, they will always find a need to go for another month more, because it's never good enough. That's how that works. So quality is okay. That's there. They also do customer value. That's somehow in place. And I think the long-term vision is pretty good too. Like this net zero in 2050, pretty solid. That's everything is geared towards that. The rest of the lean house that we use is not so far evolved. Nobody works in teams. Everybody sets their own priorities. Everybody goes their own way, decides what to do, decides how long to spend on something. So there's no team. Everybody is in a function. If you're lucky, you're in a function. Usually, you are the only one who understands. You're the best contractors. Everybody's working in their own little silo. There's no flow. There's no balancing of workload. It's absent. It's just, so we have all these standards, but we don't follow the process. So the red crosses are our focus areas. And then what we do is we just started introducing improvements one after the other. Just with that vision of, okay, we need to be faster, we need to have 2 plants, we need the capability to build 2 plants per year. And the first thing we did was we introduced this 2-week cadence. Then the teams came up with the notion that actually it would be helpful if they were working in a team. So we introduced teams, multidisciplinary teams. And this is a brownfield environment with all this big concrete and rusty pipes and all that. So I would argue that this is not a complicated, but it's a complex environment. Everything, there's a surprise every hour in that environment. If you want to take something out, you just don't know what will happen. But anyway, so that's the reason why we need multidisciplinary teams. If you take out a valve, then your piping or your pipe bridge will collapse, and then you need another plot, so you need someone from civil to clear it. It's quite messy. So it needs to have all the disciplines in the team. That was a clear realization. Then we also noticed that everybody in Germany is an interesting country. Germans are you would think that it's a hierarchy, it's hierarchy, and then they would just follow orders and things. Not at all. Everybody has their own opinions, and they post their opinions, and it is like if a German engineer doesn't align with you, you're lost. So they're taking charge. So at some point, and that was a problem because nothing got ever solved. So what we did is we said, okay, let's introduce someone to prioritize the work and to decide if it's okay, if we stop or not. Remember, they continue engineering if nobody says stop. So we introduced the role of, especially the product owner. That was really important. Someone to say, oh, we're done, enough, let's move on. So, and then we also introduced a Scrum Master, someone to take care of the teams. Then the funneling of the work to product owners is a big challenge. It continues to be, but now there's some clarity that, okay, nobody can throw in another pet project into it because Shell is a company where there are many people who like it. So now we have a team that wants to robotize everything. Yeah, that's very cool, but it distracts entirely from our goal. And somehow that's not controllable. So we have the product owner, we've introduced the product owner as really a guardian for the team and say, okay, the product owner decides what goes into the team and what not, what they should work on. That's a lot of attention there. And then we decided to visualize what all the teams are working on because teams were just not clear what was happening. And because they were not clear, they insisted to be in all the meetings, losing hours of their time because that was their only way to understand what was going on. There was a good need for it. So we said, okay, let's just visualize it. So people don't need to go to all these meetings. You never know in what meeting you will hear the right information. Anyway, so let's not do that. And then another step was technical authorities. That's an interesting one. So if you are lucky, you become a technical authority, which means you've got to say about anything that happens in your field. So I'm technical authority for Agile, which means theoretically that in Shell I can say, oh, you're not doing Agile the right way, I object, and then everybody needs to go back to square one. I don't like to use that authority, but it is there. So we said, okay, we don't want that. What we want is technical authorities are to provide their feedback within the duration of the sprint. So within the 2 weeks, you need to give your feedback, and if not, sorry, you move on. This took the summer to get that through. It was lucky the summers because they were never all there at the same time. Good. That worked. But it really helped because technical authorities, they are there for a very good reason, but they were blocking the process. And they were not helping because they would choose their time to give the feedback, and they were needed and required to give that feedback. So this is a very big topic. And then we have the planners. Any one of you have planners in their organizations? They ask for information all the time, and then hours, and then they make these big Gantt charts and these huge, and which are never correct and will always be adjusted. That's why we do Agile. But we still make those plans. So we said, okay, let's not do that anymore. Let's stop making all these plans, and let's stop requiring the contractor to deliver before April. Because we don't know what they will encounter. We are going to negotiate for 3 months if we want to get that, and then they will probably not make it anyway, or we are lucky and they so we just don't do it. It's category waste. Is this waste 1 or 2? The one that you get easily out of your system. That one. So we got that, and now we started 3 weeks ago. We did our first 90-day planning session, which is a collaborative planning session, like pool planning. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. We just put all the teams, parallel teams. There are 8 parallel teams now. We put them in a room and said, okay, we need to understand what's coming up and when. And so we did that planning. By the way, all these improvements were a result from the retrospectives. Every retrospective, we had a problem. The problem was we don't know what other teams are doing. Solution, let's do a 90-day plan together. That's the dynamic. I've not introduced any of those work forms, if not by pull from the teams. The retrospective elicits problems that have occurred during the sprint, and then we have a conversation with the team on how to solve it, and then one of those steps comes out of it. So what happens here is that the team actually builds their own agile ways of working by doing this. Just by having this challenge, they find solutions to the problems by having very good retrospectives, and then the result is a form of agile. At least what I think, or lean project management. I don't not hang up on terminology. Well, and there are some more. Yeah. Oh, this is another slide. Yeah. So so we I got a call last week from the teams and said, well, maybe it's a good idea now to get some training, because we never talked about Agile, we never talked about Lean, we just gave them the challenge of accelerating their process. And now they said, well, this starts to look a lot like Agile, maybe good to have a training. So we'll do that before the end of this month. We will have a training session. That's maybe, I'm not sure if it will go, but and then there's other steps that we figure, or the teams, as I read them, I feel part of the teams really think are needed as next steps. How did I do? Is it? Do we have time? Yeah.
I don't know if it's relevant for the question, but do you have any examples that you can talk about what Dave was talking about today, about the composition and the combination of pieces of technologies and all that would be, because it seems to me that you have a huge, almost like an archaeological science.
Yeah.
They need to compete with the purpose, not in the field of what is being designed for. What could be a way to...
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So that resonates a lot with me, that whole idea of the hexagons are really interesting. Because that's what we did. We just throw in tools for solutions for problems, as they are lived by the teams. So I think that's very much not, I'm not going to say you need to prescribe a way of working or something. And by the way, I think it was in one of the presentations this morning, it's always better to have them find their own root causes, their own solutions, and come up with their own problem, and then if you have to, again, of course we can help with the suggestion to do a sprint or something.
Are you engaging with outside kind of the other players from other renewable sources or other approaches to production of clean energy?
Oh, okay, you know that's
a
it.
link with the future, because otherwise in 2030, I'm not sure if you're getting, you can get to plants again or what?
Yeah, no, okay, but yeah, well, that's a good one. We're doing something similar with the feedstock, with a bit, but that's also this. Yeah, we're doing that. So that's this is really focused. This story is really focused on the teams that build the plants, and that's actually split. Maybe at some point we find out that it's not practical to split it, and to have the business go together with construction. But that's totally separate now. So we have the chemicals business, and we have and they talk with feedstock suppliers, and they talk with, and then there's another organization that does the marketing.
Just another observation here. It was a few years ago. I was doing a project in alternative energies and waste to energy project with the refinery.
Yeah.
And so I got the opportunity for a couple of years to get exposed to really crazy and wild entrepreneurs with different mindsets, different geography, different stuff. And one of the recurrent themes was that they had some intuition or some early evidence of chemistry or biological synthesis from whatever, from mushrooms, from feedstock, from fermented, whatever, but they didn't have the equipment to scale it, to see where the issues are, where the economies of scale or whether they...
Okay. Yeah, the way that works at Shell, we have an R&D department with something like 3,000 researchers, and they do bench scale and pilot plants, and then some of the plants are actually so projects are tested. But this is all actually for the energy transition. Everything already exists. We know, we just need to build it. That's the problem now. And R&D is very important, and it should absolutely continue. But let's first implement what we would win big time if you just did what we know. We don't need to invent more right now. Of course, at some point, yes, but let's first build it.
What does your team look like? So, like a normal day for you, what does it look like?
For me?
Yeah, what do you do there? Like, are you directing more teams, or you're in and out, or you're go to the game bar, you're finishing in room 2? What's
I walk around. I have coffee.
informal links, yeah.
No, that's true. I think that's the best way of. But then I always like to be at the meetings, and then I give feedback. Now we have product owners and scrum masters, so I give after each meeting I give one-to-one feedback to the product owner and scrum master, so they can improve their performance every week. That's one thing I do, and then I talk with leaders to stop asking for KPIs. Things like that. Yeah.
So the Scrum Masters community didn't receive any training?
No.
But did they do something else before being a Scrum Masters?
No.
No? So did you recruit them?
No. It's very simple. So the team needs to be taken care of. And so they need a room. They need the team members need equipment. The big topic here is there's always some leader that pulls away a team member. So what I said is maybe it's a good idea to protect the team and to just make sure that the team stays with you. That's your role. So, do you need training for that? I think now they do, but the first 4-6 months they don't need training. I've done this before a couple of times, and I think the first 6 months you really don't need any training. You start. It's good to have training once you have run into problems. Then your question, for instance, is they don't trust each other. They don't really speak openly with each other. Let's work a bit on that. What can we do? Well, maybe have a beer together after work. But the start, I'm pretty convinced that the first 5 to 6 months can be entirely training-less, without training.
How did you pick the Scrum Master in the team?
Ask him. Who would like to serve the team? I would like to, and usually there's someone who has, the work is not level, it is multidisciplinary, so you need different skill sets, but not everybody is equally loaded. So those who have time can pick up the work. So it's just a question. The CMP guy in 2 of these teams, well, in the early stages they don't need to do any contracting, so they can do the Scrum Master work easy. But it's asking, because they will say, oh, no, I don't like that. Or there's a younger kid that shows that the capability and try it. Yeah. Try it. It's nice. Yeah. But it's not very prescriptive, because it's always a solution to the problems that they face. The only thing that I've been pushy about is doing a retrospective every 2 weeks. That's the starting point. Just the retrospective every 2 weeks, and then the rest, yeah. If you do a good retrospective, all these agile tools, in my view, are picked up by the teams themselves.
What are the key questions in the retrospective?
Why didn't you complete what you intended to complete? It's one. And that's, of course, yeah. And so that's, yeah, 5 minutes. Okay. So why didn't you complete what you promised to? And then there's a problem. Well, I will see. Okay, I think we can do it. But maybe you could have a replacement, or you could have, or I was pulled away by a manager. They said, okay, next time, make sure that you don't let yourself be pulled away. Can your Scrum Master help you, for instance? So the team talks about a solution. Or a vendor, it was not completed because a vendor didn't supply. Then we do a 5 whys. So why didn't it supply? Well, we didn't tell them that it was due for this sprint, for this week. Okay, next time let's say we need it today, and then see what happens. It's, yeah, I think the power here is to, and that's for me, Lean is about setting up an organization to learn and to improve. We heard that this morning. And I think Agile is the retrospective and Agile is such a great structure to allow people to learn. But we need to allow them, so let's not feed them with all sorts of tools and stuff. Let's just help them find a solution. But you need a challenge. Without a challenge, you won't get there. Because then we just continue doing what we always did.
And make it black and white, because I understand the training, you start with some bit of training and then you implement, but you basically say learn on the job for the 6 months. Don't bother.
Yes.
Is that absolute, or is it, I mean...
We have in our experience, it's true that the first 6 months the Scrum Master works on the team setup, the team, people relationships.
Yeah.
It's the core of the activity. After that, he starts to work on other aspects of the product backlog, the product owner,